Director General CSIR, Dr. N. Kalaiselvi, whose vibrant discourse you just now heard. Director Dr. Venu Gopal, he was mentioning to double engine, but he forgot that we have found in him a convenient fuel. So each time a program has to be held at short notice, Dr. Kalaiselvi finds him handy. So that's the advantage of being centrally placed, with of course some of the disadvantages as well. Dr. Shailja, who so passionately presented about how everything went along, and Dr. Geeta, the entire team, Jigyasa, and most of all the students who are the main attraction this evening, but for whom we would not have been here. Now, it was, I think, while I compliment you for the successful Jigyasa week, I also must compliment the youngsters for their presentations. In fact, wherever I go, I insist that it would be better that I listen to them rather than they listening to me, because otherwise they'll go home and make fun of me to their parents that so-and-so had come and we were made to sit there. But I'm sure after this also we could have some more interaction with them if the time permits. But what we saw today is, I think, an aspirational surge that is happening among the youngsters in India. And this is something very noticeable. And the manner in which they could present some of their findings with a lot of self-confidence. Not all of these were very original, to be very frank, because if you should neither underestimate yourself nor overestimate yourself. The biggest challenge for a human being is to have an optimum assessment of what one is. Now, for example, he's from Pathankot. Earlier on, everybody who went to Bombay from Pathankot thought he would become a Dharmendra. But many of them ended up becoming clapper boys, and some of them opened canteens in the backyard of one of the studios. So what is important is to actually understand what you are, you are meant for, what is your capacity, what is your aptitude, how far can you go in what you are pursuing. So that initiation has happened. Of course, what some of these children are doing may be happening in a bigger way in many of the other labs across the country also. But you see, there is a confidence of having done it on their own and done it through their inner surge or an inner urge. Like, for example, that boy presenting stethoscope. Now, this is something which was the earliest stethoscope that we had was like that. It was designed like that, actually. But, of course, these children wouldn't have seen that. You've not seen those times. You've seen only Littmann stethoscopes which are available today. So, but you had, I mean, maybe similarly, the earliest inventor of the stethoscope also went through the same thought process. So, if you have been able to trigger this thought process in them, that itself is an initiation of creativity and innovation. And when I say the aspirational urge, the other day I had a very strange experience which I immediately came and spoke to Secretary DST. We were in one of the aspirational, very small town called Dhaulpur in Rajasthan. And I suggest, Rajesh was with me, so I thought we should go to one of the schools, and that happened to be a government school for girls. And then again I said, we won't do any talking, let them talk. And then we'll end up with some concluding remarks. So one of the girls got up and she said, I am in class 8. I am beneficiary of one of these Jigyasa programs, something like that, which has given me tremendous amount of opportunity and has also given me confidence, she said. You just imagine a class 8 girl saying. But then she said, I have a complaint. So I immediately came and spoke to Abhay, which I am also bringing to your notice. She said, my younger sister also in the same school is in class 6, but she is not included in this program. So you see the aspiration. Earlier on you won't have. Similarly, there was another girl who spoke about the Inspire Award. And she also said, I had a suggestion, Inspire Award, and I was amazed, they are so aware of it. The entire process of giving all these benefits and the incentives and scholarships. So the other girl says, your Inspire Award is categorized in 3 classes. Class 12, graduation, post-graduation. So what about us? the high school girls. And immediately after I came back in the evening, I spoke to Abhay, and even yesterday in our meeting, we were talking that I suggested we must find a way of, because if there is a spark, we can't leave it unattended. So this means this experiment that we started at the behest of Prime Minister Modi has actually begun to yield results. And that is why this year on the 23rd of August, when we have National Space Day, which we started observing with the success of Chandrayaan, because that was the day Chandrayaan landed on the south pole of the moon. This day we have decided to have an elaborate exhibition, and we are integrating with the Ministry of Cultural Affairs so that we'll begin from where, like the Earth stethoscope which you created today also was in use at one upon a time, maybe many centuries ago. And gradually it went through several generations. So we will go back to the original creation or try to link it, while numbers like number 0 digit coming over here, which actually became our countdown process even in our launches. So I think that is also a way in which we can connect with our traditional knowledge and get the best of the both, because India exclusively has that advantage. Now, the only, I think one more suggestion, which, because I'm glad that ever since Dr. Kalaiselvi has been there, she has been accepting all my suggestions, at least with apparent magnanimity. I know, even it was not. So, first thing when she joined, I said we should start a program called 1 Week, 1 Lab. And she was very generous immediately launching that, which I'm sure has given a buzz to each of the labs, and each of the labs is speaking good about it. Then I said, now we should start 1 week, 1 theme, because we have a number of institutes and labs overlapping with the same theme, so they can come together. So we are now into that. And now here we have 1 day as a scientist. So could we also have for the scientists 1 day as a teacher? So next time we could do that. So one of us from here could go to the DPS at Pathankot and then to Roorkee. The other girl was there. We could actually reciprocate and repay them. We can start from the schools from where these award winners have come. And you could take the credit. Look here, I won the Jigyasa award, and that's why my school is now being benefited by the visit of one of the chief scientists. So he'll have the satisfaction of having accomplished that for his school, and the school will be benefited. And second, another improvisation, because each time we start this, so I keep thinking how to move on to the next slide. The second improvisation, if you could do, is out of these 5 days or 6 days, 1 day or half a day, at least one of the parents of each of these boys or girls. So that when you go back home, you're not brainwashed by them. No, I'm talking what is happening on the ground. So, because then they would say, okay, वो एक DG है, एक scientist chief है, वो तो उनका हो गया. But now don't get too much into this. This is a, what is that souvenir I have brought? A brochure of a coaching center. You better start going there from tomorrow. So I think we equally need, because it's not something that can be left only to a single individual or a single scientist or a single student. So we are all children of the same society. And parents, and not to grudge them, because no parent would like causing disadvantage to a progeny or to a child. It's just that they have not gone through that. They have seen different times. So they are not actually exposed to this kind of, so they don't know the merit of this. They don't wish to do anything, or at least find themselves guilty of having done anything which could not optimally help the future of the child. Like Dr. Kalaiselvi was saying, when she became a scientist, they said, are you like APJ Kalam? But I went to school a few years earlier than her. And when our college mates, they would say कि मैं scientist हूँ, तो कहे क्यों कोई नौकरी नहीं मिली? So maybe you saw better times. And rightly so, it was happening. It was happening in a descending order, because you took science subjects to become an engineer or a medical doctor, You couldn't, you had no choice, you did BSc, then you tried civil services, you became a collector. You were never not any way close to anything called science. And if you didn't make it to IAS, then you went for MSc. Then you tried a teaching job, because UGC pays you very well, university. If given a choice, you'll not come here. You'll go to one of the universities with all the perks, privileges, everything. Or you did a PhD, again tried a teaching job. And if you didn't get anything else, then you came to CSIR. And this was actually happening. But I think the hallmark of the last 11 years under Prime Minister Modi, as far as our children are concerned, which has also supplemented this surge of science interest, is the National Education Policy 2020, which we often don't discuss. And this kind of program will help you that. It doesn't make you prisoner of the subjects that were selected by you, by your parents, that if you chose science subjects in class 12, then you have to be chased by them. You can change over, you can juggle. And in a child, the aptitude also evolves. You know, when you newly enter into a school, I'm talking on behalf of many of you, the first thing that impresses you is your physical instructor, your PT teacher. Because वो धौंस जमाता है सब पे, इधर दौड़ाता है उधर दौड़ाता है. And you come home and told your mother, I want to become a PT teacher. And she curses herself, कि मैंने क्या इसका दिमाग कर दिया. Then gradually, you are impressionable, you are enamored by the appearances put across by your teacher. Then there may be some teacher carrying a little more glamour, so you want to become something in the subject being taught by her or him. And gradually the aptitude evolves. But sometimes by the time it evolves, you have already crossed that mark. You already got stuck in class 12 in the subjects chosen not by your choice, your preference or your aptitude, chosen by someone else. And now you realize, no, I was not meant for medical. I was meant for literature. And this education policy is actually an answer to that. And it happens and this is exactly the pattern which is being followed across the world. We took up later. So because we were a new democracy, so we had to create access to education, partly in the form of a series of regional engineering colleges, a series of government medical colleges across the country. But this is the pattern. In fact, you have some of the best literary writers who evolved from science. John Keats wrote all his poetry when he was in the first year or second year of a medical school. Of course, then he got tuberculosis and died as a student itself. So many of them. That's because they had the opportunity actually to realize what was evolving inside them. Just as I said, you go to Bombay because everybody says you're so handsome. And the mother always says, and you also start believing her. When you go there, they say you don't even look like a villain. So then you evolve, then you learn what is. So I think this new education policy is the greatest enabler. And as Dr. Kalaiselvi said, the single one individual who should be credited for bringing in this huge 360 transformation is Prime Minister Modi. He's been repeatedly talking, whether it was Pariksha Pe Charcha, whether it is Mann Ki Baat, everywhere he's been finding references to this. And therefore, I won't go into all the figures that have been narrated. I think this has been a remarkable number. I was told 3,500 activities. Yeah, that's quite remarkable. I'm sure, I know how much of hard work might have gone behind all this. But I think what is important is that this exercise should be seen as an endeavor aimed at 3 goals, 3 A's. And that is awareness, second is aptitude, and third is avenue. Awareness about what is there available, because many of us don't know. And I'm glad most of our now, 60% of the startups are from B towns, C towns. And Dholpur is not even C town, which I was talking about. I was there just about 3 days back. It's in fact an aspirational district. It's been, not even merited to be in that train. Because it's a myth that most of them come from cosmopolitan. It's not so, because they have their other opportunities. The aspirational surge is much, much more in a town like Pathankot, in Phagwara, because they want to prove that, yeah, we can also do. And that is what has to be addressed and channelized. And that is because the awareness, and thanks God to this instrument that you have, this mobile phone, which is become a big, big enabler, because earlier on you didn't have this. If you had to do a thesis, in fact, in my case, my guide told me, you will find this book at British Council Library. When I went to the British Council Library over here, they said, we have the book, but the British, our Consulate General in Calcutta has borrowed it. So you wait for 2 months. It doesn't happen now. And it must have happened with most of us. It doesn't happen now. You have everything at the click of the mouse. So that is giving you. And aptitude, you realize, even when the awareness comes, sometimes you are not realizing your true aptitude because you are not aware that there is a channel for this. When, for example, as I was talking in the terms of Bollywood, if you realize that you are you could be writing poetry, do you find a slot there itself? And the third is, of course, the avenue. This also becomes an avenue of livelihood. And for that, I have another third suggestion, if we can work on that. One, of course, one day, one teacher. The other is getting a parent. And third is, like you had CIPLA as a sponsoring. We could also ask CIPLA to become a partner in this program. Let them also adopt one of the child each or two, all this, depending on what is their participation. Because then they could also make them, they could also be a medium of livelihood for them. They could sustain. Now, for example, if he's created this project or if she has created that project, where do they go from here now? Tomorrow you take up some other college courses, then your project doesn't find, because you can't be expecting Dr. Kalaiselvi to giving you, what, 5,000 every month. She'll become very rich soon. She has a big empire, 37 labs, but she's not ready right now. So if you make the private sector sponsor, not only sponsor the activity, also let them adopt the children and give them some liberty, of course, with your cognizance, to decide what kind of project. Let's not decide the project unilaterally. The project, of course, depending on his aptitude, and his aptitude linked with their requirement. So that later on they would own you, they would sustain you even financially, and they would also become a source of your livelihood. So that's how we can sustain a startup. Otherwise, what would happen is that this young boy who was showing that solar will, after 3 years, find another boy roaming in BMW, and he will say, hell with this solar. Let me do whatever he is doing, beg, borrow, steal, or decathy. So we have to plan. If we have to plan in the long run, we have also to find means of sustaining the advantages of NEP 2020. If the advantage of NEP 2020, along with this, is technological availability and access, is that you get awareness through this, you realize your aptitude, then you also have to be provided with an avenue which is linked to your preference. And for that, we can have a financial sustainability right from the beginning, because I think one important advantage given to you, all of you, is that you are the ones, like Dr. Kalaiselvi was saying, that tomorrow when we keep talking of this Viksit Bharat and 2047, you are going to be the architects of 2047, because you are going to be at the prime of your career, prime of your age, prime of your energy. And the entire future growth across the world is going to be technology driven. And that also is the reason. And now the trend has also changed because of some of the success stories we have registered, like in space. And the best way, I think, that all of us can do, at least I do that, to find out where these children are going ahead, because sometimes you tend to lose contact if you are not constantly. Don't go by the ratings given in the magazines or in the newsletters. Just go try to get access to the counseling sessions conducted on them when they go through IIT JEE, when they go through NET, and they will tell where you stand. And you know something? Now, certainly for the last 2-3 years, because in engineering, in the aerospace, many in the room may not be aware, you have a summer training program like you have in MBA. In MBA also, in first year, you go for a summer training to one of the industry houses. You can go to a printing house, you can go to a manufacturing. So there also they have a provision. The third year of engineering, they expect you to go because that adds to your profile for 2 months. And for the last 2 years, thousands and thousands of applications to do a summer training in ISRO. Because most of these boys have taken up aerospace as engineering, which was not a favored subject till a few years ago. So the trend keeps changing. Like sometimes it was electronic communication, even in engineering, sometimes mechanical. It's now become like that. So we have to keep in touch with that. And that is a reflection because they know where they are looking for. And that has very closely linked to the market placement or the future job placement of theirs. And there also you can know your standing. Especially I was talking, because I'm going to 1 or 2 teaching institutions also every week. It's very more important for them also where they stand. To my amazement, I found many of the boys and girls opting for a private medical college instead of AIMS. You have 26 AIMS. Many of them opting for a private engineering college, then they're applying for the new IIT. And I, in fact, pointed out to some of the directors of the AIMS and also directors, said, look, that means that there's something amiss. And because these boys are judging us better than we judge ourselves. So that's why I said, get one parent also to be educated. And next time, I'm sure we'll move on to a better level than we are today. And if you have any suggestions to offer, I think you can give them 5 minutes to do that.